Who would have known that in the month of March, billions of lives would change forever because of a virus? The coronavirus has impacted tons of families and loved ones across the world. People have either lost hours on their job or just lost their jobs completely, and others have even lost family members. 2020 has had the craziest sequence of events some people can remember, and now we're all going into the unknown, and everyone is interested to see what happens next. Tracy Zamora is a social service director at Belair Nursing Home in Norfolk, Nebraska. She goes into depth on where she was when it happened and how her job had been impacted by the virus.
I happened to be in Las Vegas when things started to go down a little more, and they were starting to hear more news about what was happening at my nursing home facility and how they were taking precautions, and that the residents were going to be contained in their room. The residents have to stay in their rooms. We can't have large groups, so they cannot eat in the dining room together. And for my position, we have to make sure that we're meeting all their psychosocial needs, which generally means time with their family, activities to do, and that has really rocked their world because all of those things have changed. So we need to make sure that we are satisfying their needs and giving them as much contact with their family as possible without them seeing them face to face or being able to go out of the building to see them, because they cannot leave the building unless it's emergency or an emergency doctor's appointment type situation. We require testing for all of the employees when they come in the building, so they have to take their temperature. We have to wear masks throughout the facility. Anyone that has any signs or symptoms is not to come to work. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff. Of course, the hand washing, wearing gloves, protective. We have protective equipment such as gowns and that for if anyone is suspected of COVID. Numerous types of education so they're aware of what the signs and symptoms of COVID is, and also how we can assist our residents at this time. I think we'll take a little more look at what we take for granted every day, that we just never really thought about until now. How nice it is to be able to have them have company. I'm hoping that their families too will come and visit them more often and see what can happen when they aren't able to visit. I also think just the fear of not getting sick anymore would be nice, or bringing it to these residents because they are the ones that are at risk. Just, simply being able to go out with their family to church. I think people are realizing how much they enjoy church, and that has been taken away from us, and we've had to adapt to just watching those services on TV, which is very important to a lot of the residents at the nursing home.
On the next topic, Tracy goes into depth on why perhaps the nursing home has gotten the short end of the stick and how people aren't giving the recognition that the nursing homes deserve.
I think nursing homes are kind of getting the short end of the stick. They're concentrating on hospitals, which is good, of course, but here we are without PPE and the ability to test, and it's really rocked our world. So hopefully they think about this. I guess you can see that in a lot of the commercials and things, you see all kinds of healthcare heroes, and that's doctors and nurses in the hospitals. You see EMT workers, you see even Hy-Vee workers, the workers that work in the shop. You really haven't heard a lot about the nursing home, and that's because we're kind of not the, I guess, per se, sexiest of jobs, because our stuff is real life. Not that hospitals and things aren't. That's not my take on this, but we've been contained, and I guess that they didn't feel like we needed all of the equipment that we need to make our residents safe, and I think they're starting to figure out that hey, these nursing homes need stuff too, because now, of course, you're seeing all the bad stuff about the nursing homes and the, 70 or 80 dead in the nursing homes. There's a reason for that. It's because the proper equipment wasn't provided to those nursing homes to make sure that COVID didn't get into the building.
We now turn our story to the teacher slash coaches side of the spectrum. Melissa Legate is a English teacher and a speech coach for Pierce High School in Pierce, Nebraska. She first talks about when she realized that this was a big deal at first and how it affected her speech team and above all else, her seniors.
I think I realized how big of a deal this was when I'm a speech coach, and so our speech season ended up being impacted. I woke up the morning of our conference tournament to a text message from one of the coaches who was hosting the tournament, and she said that one of the schools that is in our conference and would be competing that day was not going to be there because of coronavirus at their school. And then actually another school later, a couple hours later, also had to drop out of the tournament. And so when I saw that it was actually causing us to have to stay home and quarantine from regular activities in life, even important things like a conference tournament, I knew then that it was a big deal. Of course, the people that I felt for the most were our seniors. My heart just broke for them because they have worked so hard, not just this year, but for 4 years. And they had so much preseason success that our hopes were very high for districts and for state. And for our program, we just couldn't wait to kind of show what we were able to do. And then when that opportunity was taken away initially, and then there was kind of the possibility that maybe we would do an online version of districts and state, and that kind of slowly faded as this situation got more severe too. And so every time that dream got a little further away, my heart broke a little more for the seniors. So to them, I would say thank you, first of all, for all of the hard work that they've put in, not just this year, but for 4 years, and for the joy that they brought me just getting to be their coach and interact with them daily. I will miss them so much, but the hard work that they put in this season is not for nothing. Even though we may not be bringing home any hardware to show how talented they are and how hard they worked, that alone, the work that they put in and the sweat and the early mornings, all of that is what will matter in the long run, not a medal that they might have brought home from Kearney.
Mrs. Legate also talks about the relief it will bring to her when the virus is all over and done with.
Oh my goodness, when this is over, I will be so relieved. I will be so excited to be back in the classroom with my students in a more traditional environment. I miss also being able to I have 2 little kids, being able to take them places and not worry about what they might be exposed to. I'm just really looking forward to the relief that will all come, that lack of anxiety and worry that everywhere you go, you could potentially be exposing yourself or exposing other people.
We move on to Tyler Legate, who is a 7th and 8th grade math teacher, a head wrestling coach, and a football assistant coach for Pierce High School. He first talks about how he didn't realize at first how big of a deal this virus was and what he has learned from it.
Honestly, I didn't really know much about it coming in. I didn't realize there was, I kind of heard on the news and stuff at night, like in January and February, and never thought really that it would hit so close to home, which it has. Obviously, it's affected the whole nation and the whole world, really. And I never thought that we'd be living the way that we are right now. But it's, I guess it's unprecedented times, so we just have to, adapt to them. Now that the coronavirus is here, we're going to have to live with it. Hopefully we can get a vaccine and get some ways of testing and being able to track it. And obviously the longer it's around, the doctors and the professionals will become more familiar with it. But yeah, just getting back to a normal routine is what I want. And like stated earlier, though, it has been some good things that's come of it as well, with being able to be with family and really having a schedule slow down so you can kind of cherish the little things in life.
Lastly, Mr. Legate talks about how he still gets in touch with his wrestlers and football players and how he still makes them accountable for their work.
For football, we're using the Google Classroom platform to try to stay connected with them. I mean, we're connected in so many ways nowadays, so it's easy to get connected. You just have to do it. But obviously via Zoom, I'm having Zoom meetings with my wrestlers every Wednesday, And football, we're having Zoom meetings about every 2 weeks just to stay connected with the kids and with the athletes. And hopefully, I mean, it's an honor system now. So we're gonna find out what kids are doing it and what kids aren't, and hopefully we are. I know kids that I coach and such, I'm trying to stay in contact with them as much as I can, but I know that if you don't set a schedule or have a routine, it can be kind of hectic on yourself, and you won't get a lot done, and your goals won't be accomplished. And I'm victim of that too. If I don't really get down and get a schedule and a routine, then I'm not doing much throughout the day either.
The coronavirus is still here, and it will be for a little while yet, but we are all in this together, and we'll get through it. But for now, stay safe. For Hawk TV News, I'm Caleb Zamora. Hope all is well, and please be safe.
Shelton is a small Nebraska community located between Kearney and Grand Island. The town currently has around 1,000 people and still has a locally owned community newspaper to call its own. There has been a newspaper in Shelton since its founding, beginning with Mormon settler Joseph Johnson, who settled on the banks of the Wood River near what is now the Shelton Business District back in 1858. Johnson arrived with his several wives and family, establishing a store and printing office to serve the needs of pioneers that passed through the area for destinations in the West. Johnson established the Huntsman's Echo, which was the first newspaper published west of the Omaha area. 6 years later, as social pressures against polygamy grew, they moved on and other families settled in the area, forming the community called Wood River Center. Some years later, to avoid any confusion with the newly settled community of Wood River, about 10 miles east, Wood River Center became Shelton. In 1879, the Shelton Clarion was established. In 1880, it was later sold to Mr. McNew, who called it the Shelton Clipper, the name by which it is known today. The Clipper was owned and edited by many people over the years, most recently by Doug Duncan and Steve Glenn. In 2017, the Clipper merged with other newspaper companies, the Cara Record and the Wood River Sunbeam, and together with the Gibbon Reporter, they combined into one newspaper. Since other companies were about to discontinue their publishing, the Clipper decided to take on those subscribers and expand its coverage area to include more stories and events in other towns near Shelton. Steve Glenn is now the current owner and editor of the Shelton Clipper. He first started working for the newspaper company in Kearney, Nebraska, and remained there for 10 years. He's been part of the newspaper business for about 30 years.
When I took over the newspapers, it was the Shelton Clipper and the Gibbon Reporter. They were sister newspapers. And then we added the Wood River newspaper, and then we expanded our territory a little bit. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we combined them. And that was an interesting time. But it went rather well. So now our newspaper covers 4 or 5 communities and 4 schools, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Even though newspaper readership is declining, few people realize what the process is in producing a weekly newspaper. First, staff goes through a weekly process of gathering information for stories on area people, businesses, events, extracurricular activities at schools, local government meetings at city halls, and many other articles they can cover. Photographs are taken of people in different events, including sports. Then the real work begins by putting together the newspapers. Once all the stories are typed up, proofread, and corrected by the staff members, the process of printing the newspapers begins.
We basically get started with an issue on a Wednesday. It's kind of a Wednesday to Wednesday thing. We prepare what we're going to do for the next week, whatever we're going to cover. If we have any special sections or any other projects going on, or just the day-to-day, month-to-month things, we have a staff meeting where we prepare for the next issue. And then through that week, with just a small staff and covering so many things, we plan out where we're going to go, what we're going to do, what we're going to have in the paper. And then that's basically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a lot of times on the weekend. And then Mondays we put it all together, it all comes together, and then Tuesday it's like a puzzle. We put it all together in a dozen pages to, we've been as many as 22 pages of news. And we do that on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, early morning, we email our newspaper pages to the plant in Kearney, and they print it up, and then we pick it up, get it ready for the post office, which all of our mail goes through the post office, and that's on Wednesday morning. So as the newspaper is being printed, we're at our staff meeting planning for the following week.
So far, the Schulten Clipper is going fine. However, there are temporary setbacks that may affect the business.
Well, right now, with the coronavirus and everything being shut down, we're like most all businesses where we try to sustain what we're doing. But the other thing with newspapers is, with social media, even 5 years ago, things that would normally have been in your local newspaper, they have made their way onto social media, Facebook, and which is good. We use Facebook, and we have a website, very active with it. We, instead of someone getting their newspaper delivered through the mail and picking it up and opening it up, and it's basically the same pages, only it's delivered to their email address, so they can scroll through the pages. It's set up exactly like our print edition, but it's a little more immediate for people to get. They don't have to wait for the mail. As a matter of fact, most people that get an e-clipper as early as 1 o'clock on a Wednesday can open up their paper and read it before the local people even get it in the post office box.
Even though the Schulten Clipper faces many challenges, it continues to bring news and information to the communities it serves and is active in those towns, as it looks towards the future of newspaper publishing with its social media offerings.
Well, it's very interesting. Like I said before, you get to meet a lot of people, you get involved in a lot of things, and through the years, just as newspapers and social media has evolved, it's become a challenge, and it's a fun challenge. But I'm looking at the retirement years, and so as I have told my wife, when it's time to sell the newspaper, then we want to be sure that we have something worth selling. And so social media and being, online presence is very important, because information is information. It doesn't really matter how people get it, whether it's in a newsprint or video screen, laptop, phone. We have all those avenues that we can get the information to the people.
My name is Michelle Denkin, and I'm a branch office administrator for Edward Jones. Life has changed the most due to coronavirus, in that I can't do anything after work. Thankfully, I can still go to work, but I come right home, and then we don't get to do anything fun. The parts of my life that haven't changed are that I'm still able to go to work. I still can go to the grocery store, however, I am going less often. What I dislike the most is that you just have to get used to a different way of life again. The upsides that have happened are that my daughter is home from school, and so we've been spending more time together, watching movies, going on walks. I've been exercising a little more too. The most challenging part has been thinking that now I have all this time that I'm going to accomplish a whole bunch of things and still not accomplishing them.
My name is Anna Soder. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Maxey Elementary, and this is my third year teaching. Unfortunately, since COVID-19 has started, I'm not able to go into my building anymore to teach. So I've been teaching from home, and that looks like every day I'm sending emails to families with reading videos and math videos. I've also been recording stories for my kids to watch every day. So that's me filming and reading to them and sending those out. The transition from in-school learning to online learning has been really hard for me and my students as well. Since I teach kindergarten, there's so much hands-on work, so many worksheets and cutting and pasting and puzzles and games that are so involved with, in-person learning. So now switching to online learning has been hard. Just having the teaching being via videos and stuff that they can print out at home has been really hard for all of us. This switch to online learning I know has been really challenging for families. They have taken on this role as teacher amazingly, but I know it's been really hard. It takes time out of their daily lives that they have to sit down with their 5 or 6 year old and get them started on this video and help them with the volume and pausing it and moving from the video to the worksheet and moving on to the next thing. I know is really challenging, but they're doing a great job. But I know it is really hard work to do the technical things as well as the teaching really from their house. It has been challenging to stay connected with the kids just because I don't get to see them every day anymore. It has been nice. Every Friday we have a Zoom meeting where we all get on Zoom and do different fun things, like we did a scavenger hunt and we did show and tell. So that's been really fun, getting to check in with their learning too, seeing how the videos went for that week. I've also stayed connected by mailing letters to them. I've sent them 2 letters now, and I know they enjoy receiving it just as much as I enjoy sending it. A couple of them have also mailed me letters back, which has been really sweet. So staying connected has been hard, but there's ways to do it. Although this time has been really challenging, it has been kind of nice to have time to reflect on my teaching, and it's given me the opportunity to learn a lot more, really dig into some things that will really help me in the future.
Jayla Nelson, also known as Mom. I started making sourdough bread about 24 years ago. It was just a year or so after we got married that my mother-in-law offered me some of her starter. I've been making bread for about 24 years now. We've done a rough estimate of about 7,000 to 8,000 loaves. The starter itself is about 3 generations old, and it would be on my husband's side of the family, and it will be passed down to any future generations. The starter itself is not given to anyone outside of the family. It's kind of a heirloom. First, you're going to have to start with the care of your starter. You're going to need to feed your starter because starter is a fermentation process and it needs something to live on. It creates its own bacteria that mixes with the gluten and causes it to rise. So we start with starter, and then we add sugar and salt and oil and warm water and flour. And those are your only ingredients to make the bread. When it has risen to the desired level, then it's ready to bake. And it takes about 40 to 45 minutes, depending on if you like it golden brown or a little more soft. I didn't start selling it until about 5 years ago was really when I started selling it. Most of the time, I would just make it to eat as a family or to give away to friends and people that, just wanted some home-baked goodness, and it was just a thoughtful gesture to give away occasionally. I decided to start selling loaves when a particular person that I had given loaves to really wanted it on a more regular basis. And so we worked out a deal, and I said I would sell it to him for $4 a loaf. Recently, however, I have been doing mass amounts of selling loaves of sourdough bread simply because I decided to just go out on a limb and offer it on our local community Facebook pages for $4 for a loaf of bread, and just to see if I had any interest in the community for it. I offer a contactless porch pickup option, and I have a basket outside on the covered porch on a chair, and I can put their loaves of bread in that basket, cover it with a tea towel. It stays warm, it stays clean, and beside the basket is a can that's called bread dough, and they can leave their cash in there for me. When they've dropped off their money, I can bring it inside. I dump it out onto a little basket inside the house, and I don't touch it for 2 days, so that if there would be any type of contamination on the money due to COVID, then it can just die off on its own, wash my hands, and then I can go back and collect the money in a couple days. People are tired of cooking. They want something homemade that they didn't have to fix themselves. And they want comfort food. Bread's a comfort food. Think about Grandma. Grandma's kitchen always smelled like fresh baked bread.